Okay. So thank you everyone again for coming on. Good evening. I am Cindy Gonzalez, and I'm from the New Jersey Housing and Mortgage Finance Agency, also known as NJHMFA. Thank you for joining us at our Road Home New Jersey Home Buying webinar series. If you have any questions for this presentation today, feel free to reach out to Jesse Crawford, who is also here from NJHMFA, and I put his information in the chat there. The other thing I had noted in the chat, we found that some people register for these webinars and they share the Zoom link to someone else. Therefore, that means if that happened to you and someone shared the Zoom link, that means we don't have your name and email address. So you won't be getting the follow-up emails that we'd be sending with all the materials in the recorded webinar. So if you didn't register and you want that, please just feel free to chat me in your chat box, your name and email address. The other thing I want to say as well is that we are recording this, like I said, so if you do have your camera on and you don't want to be seen, then you can shut that off now. If you don't know where your chat function is, if you're calling in, just feel free to unmute when we get to Q&A sections. If you're on Zoom, then on mine, it's at the toolbar at the bottom and it says chat. So just click on that and you can either chat a question throughout the webinar and it would go to the whole group, or you have the option to chat me directly if you would like, and I can try to answer questions. If I'm unable to answer them, then we'll just wait till we get to the Q&A and then we'll go over those. But feel free, like I said, put your questions in there as we go and we'll get to them once we do the Q&A. Also, one more thing, the email that's going out tomorrow, like I mentioned, with the recording and the materials that we've gone over today. If you have attended one of our webinars in the past, it will not resend to you again. So I just want to make that clear because we've had a couple of people on these webinars that has happened to. So I don't want you to think that we forgot about you. So just again, chat me if that's the case, if you had registered for an event that we did prior to this one, so I can make sure that I'll personally forward it to you to make sure that you receive all of that information. And then please keep yourself muted until we get to the Q&A, and then feel free to unmute or we'll just read your questions from the chat. But now I would like to get started. So I'm going to introduce our first speaker, who we call the face of our agency here at NJHMFA. And this is Jesse Crawford, and he's our lender outreach and marketing coordinator.
Thank you, Cindy. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming out tonight. We got a host of information to share with you about our first-time homebuyer programs, about our down payment assistance program, which I purposely leave for the last part of my presentation because it's kind of like the meat and potatoes of the presentation. Again, my name is Jesse Crawford with New Jersey Housing Mortgage Finance Agency, and I'm going to get started right into my presentation. Let's share my screen. And let me put this on full screen here. And there we go. Okay, maximizing first-time homebuyer opportunities with down payment assistance. Again, we are the New Jersey Housing Mortgage Finance Agency, and we provide funding for affordable homeownership and housing opportunities throughout the state of New Jersey for New Jersey residents only. We are a state housing finance agency, and we respond to the needs of residents by implementing creative programs and establishing alliances that fund affordable home mortgages for first-time home buyers. And we do this through a network of approved lenders. A little bit of statistics here. According to the National Association of Realtors, first-time home buyers make up 33% of all home buyers. And of that, the home buyers continue the largest share of home buyers in that group are between the ages of 25 and 34 age group, which accounts for 54% of all home buyers. Also, 71% of all first-time home buyers were previously renting an apartment or a home. Now, we all understand that there are some roadblocks to home ownership that hinders folks from being able to buy a home. And studies show these are some of the leading barriers why renters aren't able to purchase. One would be down payment and closing costs, just not having enough money saved for those particular things. The other is qualifying for a mortgage. Also, what type of debt you might have, student loan debt or credit card debt or something along those lines. Job security is another issue, whether or not you're in a position to even purchase and settle down in one particular area. And then what we are experiencing right now in certain areas throughout the state of New Jersey is not enough homes for sale. Okay, and according to this particular chart, affording the down payment, 68% said that was one of the leading barriers for them. Qualifying for a mortgage, 53% said that was the barrier that they having faced, and debt rounds off at 50% as another barrier why folks aren't able to purchase a home. Down payment and closing costs, the upfront cost to purchase a home are commonly rated by all renters as a primary obstacle for home ownership. And nearly 9 in 10, 88% of low-income renters said having money for down payment and closing costs was a major obstacle for them for buying a home. And then it rounds off here, middle-income renters, 72% indicated the same challenge. And of these groups, 62% of low-income and 39% of middle-income renters considered having funds as a major obstacle to home ownership. %53% of all renters cited their inability to afford down payment as the reason why they rent. And it's the most frequently cited explanation. And we go through these statistics. I wanted to go through these to show you what folks are dealing with in terms of thinking that they're not able to buy a home because they can't get past this particular barrier. But we have a solution for that tonight, and I'll get into that a little bit further. Here's a snapshot of some other roadblocks that prevent buyers from being able to purchase or save money for down payment to buy a home. Student loan debts for first-time home buyers at 56%. Credit card debt is at 34%. Car loans, childcare expenses, healthcare costs, and others all hinder folks from being able to save money for their down payment. Now we have at our agency 2 foundational mortgage programs. Our mortgage programs are coupled with our down payment assistance program, okay? So you get a mortgage through one of our participating lenders, and on top of that, we have a program to give you money to cover your down payment and your closing costs. Our first mortgage program is called the First-Time Home Buyer Mortgage. Our second one is called the Homeward Bound Mortgage Program. And I'm going to tell you the differences between the two, but they have a lot of similarities. They're both the First-Time Home Buyer Mortgage Programs. Both of them are 30-year fixed rate loans. They're government insured, meaning it's either FHA, VA, or USDA. And we provide a competitive interest rate with anyone else in the market today that you would apply for a mortgage with. And our interest rates are determined by our agency. Our agency determines the interest rate based on market conditions each and every day. And we send those rates out to our lenders by 10 a.m. each business day. Again, we set the interest rate. The lender does not set the interest rate. The lender can't change the interest rate. So currently our interest rate is 3.15 for the Homeward Bound and 2.75 5 for our first-time home buyer. The first-time home buyer mortgage, here are the requirements. Borrower must purchase and occupy a residential home in New Jersey. The borrower must meet and qualify for a mortgage through our participating lender list, and I'll provide that information for you later. The borrower also must be a first-time home buyer. First-time home buyer, as defined, is someone who has not had an ownership interest in the primary residence they're currently living in during the previous 3 years, okay? So if you're living somewhere, renting for the last 3 years, you are considered a first-time home buyer. Even if you may own a home as an investment property someplace else. If you can prove that you have been renting at your primary residence for the previous 3 years, you're considered a first-time home buyer. And also, qualified veterans do not need to be first-time home buyers, but must not own another property prior to closing on their new home. So you have to sell their old home prior to closing on the new home with our mortgage, and if they're utilizing our down payment program. Continue on with the requirements for the first-time home buyer program. Minimum credit score needs to be 620 or greater, okay? And also, you must meet the requirements, debt-to-income ratios of 40 and 47, meaning no more than 40% of your monthly income cannot be applied towards the mortgage, okay? You can't go over 40% of that. And the 47% represents what we call the back end, which includes your mortgage payment, taxes, insurance, and any other fees like homeowners association fees or anything like that, and your monthly expenses such as your car payment, your minimum credit card payments, and other things. So it can't be more than 47% of your gross monthly income. Other requirement is that the borrower is going to be required to have 2 months reserves, a monthly mortgage payment, and I'll get into it later on another slide, how you can achieve that, that 2-month reserves without actually having to take money out of your account, or I don't want you sweating about the 2-month reserves, because there's a way you can get around that, just proving that you have the funds in certain accounts. But we'll talk about that later. The borrower's household income must meet our first-time home buyer statewide housing income limits. I'm going to click on this link here to show you the income limits for the first-time home buyer statewide program here. Do a new share. Okay, so here are the income limits, as you can see, statewide for the first-time home buyer program. Under counties, you'll see Atlantic all the way through Hudson, Salem, and Warren. Okay, 1 to 2 family household, meaning 1 to 2 adults there working in that household over the age of 18. The maximum income is $103,300. 3 or more adults working in that household over the age of 18, $118,795. That's the maximum income for the household. And lastly, on this particular slide, borrower may not possess enough liquid assets to close the mortgage loan at 80% loan to value or less. Meaning is, if you have more than 20% to put down on this home in liquid assets, you're not going to qualify for our down payment assistance program, because essentially you do not need it. The program is geared toward people who actually need the down payment assistance to help them cover those costs. If you have it sitting in an account somewhere in your checking or savings, we consider that liquid assets. We're not talking about your retirement or pension or anything like that, any of your retirement funds. We're talking about liquid assets in accounts easily accessible, such as checking or saving. Now, the next program is our Homeward Bound program. It's similar to the first-time home buyer with some differences. Again, You must purchase and occupy a residential property here in New Jersey. The borrower must qualify and meet all our guidelines for a mortgage through our participating lender list. You must be a first-time home buyer, as defined as someone who has not had ownership interest in their primary residence the previous 3 years. Again, qualified veterans do not need to be first-time home buyers, but must not own another primary residence at closing. And unlike the first-time home buyer, the Homeward Bound has higher debt-to-income ratios compared to the first-time home buyer. And it also has higher interest rate for the 30-year fixed mortgage. As before, minimum credit score is 620. But as you can see on this particular slide, the debt-to-income ratio, the max ratio is 40 and 50. So the scenario you would use here, if you don't qualify for the first-time home buyer mortgage because your debt-to-income ratios are over 40 and 47, then your lender would then put you in the Homeward Bound mortgage, which allots for higher debt-to-income ratios of 40 and 50. And as I said before, no more than 40% of your gross monthly income can be applied towards your monthly mortgage payment. And then the 50 represents what we call the back end. No more than 50% of your gross monthly income can be applied to your mortgage, which includes principal, taxes, interest, and insurance, homeowner association fees, and your monthly debt, such as credit cards, car payment, and any other installment loans, the minimum payment on those particular loans. Now, borrowers, again, are required to have 2 months reserves of the monthly mortgage payment. And there are income limits for the Homeward Bound program, but they're slightly different. And let me click on it and show you. And as you can see here, here are the income limits for the Homeward Bound program. For Hudson, the income limit is $144,620 for the household. Okay, whereas before, I believe the maximum income was $118,000 for the statewide limit. So this is another option for you if your income limit is higher than the state limit. You can utilize the Homeward Bound program and get past that hurdle of the maximum income limits, as long as you don't go over $144,620 for Gloucester or Hudson, Salem, and Warren counties for your household. And again, the Homeward Bound, the interest rate is slightly higher because of the income limits are higher, and also the debt-to-income ratios are higher. And as before, if you have more than 20% liquid assets, you're not going to qualify for our down payment assistance program. Now, really quick, for those who do not know, we're going to talk about urban targeted areas, which is another option for folks if they don't qualify because of their income, and if they are an existing homeowner who would like to take advantage of our programs. This is how you would do it. Urban targeted areas are designated by the U.S. Housing Department Urban Development, and each county has designated urban targeted areas. Okay? Buyers of homes located within urban targeted areas or qualified veterans do not need to be first-time home buyers. I want to say that again. Buyers of homes located within urban targeted areas do not need to be first-time home buyers, but you must not own another primary residence at closing. So conceivably, you want to buy a new home, you want to sell your old home prior to closing on your new home. You can utilize our programs if you do that, if you purchase in an urban targeted area. Also, some of the other benefits: higher income limits are permitted for urban targeted areas when you utilizing our program, and higher purchase prices are permitted. I'm going to show you a way that you can actually figure out whether or not the home you're looking to purchase, potential home, is in an urban targeted area. And we do that by using our site evaluator here. And I'm going to do a new share. And here is this particular site evaluator. It's loading up. If you have a potential property that you are looking to purchase and you want to find out if it's in an urban targeted area, you would simply type in the address at the top here in the search box, and it will return a color-coded map, and it will tell you whether or not that home is located in an urban targeted area tract. If it is, then you can take advantage of purchasing that home as an existing home buyer and not be penalized as long as you sell your current home prior to closing on your new home. And we've gone over everything for urban targeted areas, but what's important on this particular slide, I'm going to show you the income limits for urban targeted areas. As you can see here, counties, Hudson, Salem, Warren, 1 to 2 in the household is $123,960, whereas before with the state-wide income limits, it was somewhere around $103,000 for 1 to 2 family household, and for 3 to plus family household, it was somewhere around $118,000. So there is a benefit to purchasing in an urban targeted area. The income limits are higher, and you can qualify for this as a first-time home, not as a first-time home buyer, but as an existing home buyer looking to purchase a new home, whether you want to trade up or downgrade to a smaller home. Say you might be a retiree and you got 5 rooms, you don't need 5 bedrooms anymore. You want to downgrade to 2 or something like that, or townhouse. This is a perfect opportunity to do that and take advantage of our down payment assistance. And on this slide at the bottom here, there are some valuable resources. Downpaymentresources.com. If you're looking for additional down payment resources, you can utilize downpaymentresources.com. We don't own this site, we don't manage this site, but it's a great resource for folks looking for additional monies to help them with the down payment and closing costs for their home. Also, if you need a copy of your credit report, you can utilize annualcreditreport.com to get a free copy of your credit report from all 3 credit bureaus once a year. Now, this is really the snapshot of both programs. I'm going to go through it pretty quickly here because I've gone over it in detail, but I just want you all to see the differences here. Minimum credit score for the first-time home buyer and a homeward bound are both exactly the same, 620. It doesn't matter whether or not you got a 620 credit score, a 650, or a 700 credit score. Everyone who comes through our program gets the same interest rate for the program that they have, okay? It's a great opportunity for folks across the board to qualify for a low interest rate mortgage. There are no adjustments to the mortgage interest rate because of your credit score being 620 or 700. Everybody gets the same interest rate, okay? The first-time home buyer program has lower income limits, whereas the homeward bound has higher income limits. The first-time home buyer has low debt-to-income ratios. Homeward bound has higher debt-to-income ratios. They're both 30-year fixed rate mortgages, government-insured mortgages, not conventional. We actually don't handle conventional mortgages just yet. We will be very shortly, within the next 2 to 3 months, and that will be another resource for folks throughout the state of New Jersey to help them purchase a home. As I said before, lower interest rate for the first-time home buyer, higher interest rate for the homeward bound. And what's required for both programs, borrowers are required to complete a HUD-approved credit counseling course, okay? It's required, and you can get that through a site. I'll show you that in a minute. But what happens is you go through the credit counseling course through one of the HUD-approved agencies, and upon completion, you receive a certificate. That certificate that states you completed the course is good for 1 full year. That certificate is to be supplied with your loan closing package for review prior to closing, okay? It's required and it's a must. You can do it beforehand, before you get pre-qualified for a mortgage. You can do it during the process, but it has to be done and provided at closing. And the other great opportunity is that for the first-time home buyer and homeward bound mortgage, you can purchase anywhere from a 1 to 4 family unit as long as you occupy one of the units as your primary residence for 5 years. So you could conceivably buy a 2-family if you qualify for that, live in one unit, rent the other one out. Now you have rental income, or you got your mortgage paid by somebody else. It's a great opportunity for folks who are looking to get into investing. Start out with a 1 to 2 family unit, live in one of the units as your primary residence for 5 years, and rent the other unit out. Really quick, here are the required documents you're going to need for our mortgage program. You're going to need 3 years signed federal tax returns or 3 years transcripts. You're going to need 30-day pay stubs and 2 years W-2s, and it's going to be for all household members when the file is submitted. You're going to need 2 months bank statements for all required borrowers. Also, as I said before about liquid assets, not liquid assets, but reserves, you're going to need 2 months of monthly reserves of the mortgage payment, the anticipated mortgage payment, okay? And those reserves can be in a personal account, personal checking or savings. It can be a gift from a family member or a friend, or it can be provided by way of statements of your 401k or your pension. But you do not need to withdraw this. You just need to show that you have those funds available if you need it in case of an emergency. Agency loan proceeds shall not, in any circumstances, be used to pay down or reduce any debt that you might have to qualify for the loan. And also, you could conceivably get money back at closing if there's an excess, but the max that you can get back is $3,000. And you can get your certain things that you paid out of pocket, such as your earnest money deposit, the appraisal fee, your home inspection fee, pest inspection, and possibly your homeowner's course fee, if there is one. Other certifications, if there's a well or septic, there's going to need to be a certification for that. There's going to need to be a certification saying that there's been a wood destroying pest inspection. And as I said earlier, a HUD-approved credit counseling certification must be submitted by each borrower to prove that you've gone through the credit counseling course. If the seller is a business formation docs are required. If the seller is part of an estate or an estate, then a short certificate and death certificate is required. And if there's power of attorney, approval is required for the buyer or seller before the loan can go to closing. Final approval for your file. Lenders submit the loan file to our agency for review. Once the loan is cleared to close by the lender, the initial review by our agency could take up to 5 days. We do not use the full 5 days, but typically we allot for 5 business days, and we can get back same day approvals or within hours, or usually takes about 48 hours, okay? Lenders are encouraged to submit the file to our agency for review at least 10 days before closing to allow time for any resubmissions of loan conditions. Now, you as the buyer or potential home buyer, understand this is that your loan will never be delayed for closing because of us. Our agency does not underwrite your file at all. We review your file once it's cleared by the lender for what we call compliance. We want to make sure the proper interest rate is being charged. We want to make sure your fees are being charged and nothing has changed in terms of those things. And once we clear the file for closing, you are good to go to close your file as soon as possible, that you can get that all coordinated with the lender, your attorney, and all other parties involved. So your file will never be delayed because of us. Now, this is the happy section of my presentation. I call this the free money section. I want to talk about our down payment assistance program. Our agency will provide qualified home buyers a $10,000 cash payment towards down payment and your closing costs for your home. That $10,000 is what we call a forgivable loan. It's not a grant. It's a forgivable loan with no payments and no interest rate, meaning that over the 5-year period that you are required to reside in this home after you buy it, there are no payments for this $10,000. There is no interest rate. So as long as you live in the home for 5 years without selling, without refinancing, and obviously without defaulting on the mortgage, the $10,000 is completely forgiven. There's nothing that you have to do. It's totally wiped out. The $10,000 is coupled with our first mortgage through one of our participating lenders. And as I said earlier, currently we don't offer conventional mortgages, but we will in the very near future. And that's going to be a great opportunity for a host of other New Jerseyans to purchase a home, their first home, or purchase a new home if they're existing homeowner. And again, they're all FHA, government insured loans, FHA, VA, or USDA. In the event that you close on your loan and you successfully receive the $10,000 down payment assistance from us, and within that 5-year period, you decide that you want to move, refinance, sell, or rent the home out, then you're going to have to actually pay the entire $10,000 back, okay? But as long as you stay put for the 5 years, there's nothing that you have to pay back at all. The other great thing is that you can utilize our mortgage program and down payment assistance to purchase new construction, okay? It must be used to purchase a new home, and it must be your primary residence here in New Jersey for 5 years. The other thing is that your realtor that you're working with could possibly get you additional monies by way of what they call seller concessions to help with your down payment and other costs. So you can couple all these funds together. If you receive down payment assistance from any other down payment resource through the county or local government, and as long as they, meaning that other entity, is fine with you coupling those funds with ours, and you meet the income limits of our program and their program, you can couple those two funds together and even have more buying power to purchase your home. And in most cases, or some cases, you can purchase a home with little or no money out of your own pocket at all and get some money back at closing. Eligible properties, I've said this throughout the entire presentation. Property must be located in the state of New Jersey. You can be moving from another state, New York, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, looking to purchase in New Jersey. You have to live in the home in our state for 5 years as your primary residence. After 5 years, you can do whatever you want with the home. You can sell it, refinance it. That's entirely up to you, but you must stay put for 5 years. It must also be a single family home or a condominium, townhome, manufactured home is fine, even a mobile home that's on a fixed foundation. Mobile home cannot be on wheels where you can just roll it from one town to the next. It has to be on a fixed foundation. And as I said earlier, you can purchase up to a 4-family dwelling, of which 1 unit must be occupied by you, the borrower, as your primary residence for 5 years. Now here is the link for the HUD approved counseling agencies. I believe all the links in my presentation have been put into the chat box, so you can copy those links to your desktop, or also these links are going to be sent out to you in an email after the presentation I believe sometime tomorrow. So you'll have these links with you to go to these particular sites and view all this information. I'm going to click on this really quick to show you what it looks like. And it would take you to HUD.gov. You actually could put in your search. Now you're searched by your location, and it will return all the HUD-approved counseling agencies. It'll tell you what services they provide. Some of these counseling agencies provide credit counseling for free. Others charge a small fee. But in any case, you have a host of folks to actually select from. When you call them, find out if there's a fee. If not, what their program entails and what you have to do. They typically offer them in English and in Spanish. And that's the wrap up for my presentation. Before I want to go into a couple other things really quick. This link here at the bottom of this particular page has our first-time homebuyer guide. It's a great resource for first-time homebuyers, okay? It's a great resource for realtors to give to their first-time homebuyers and folks who need a refresher course on the process of buying a home here in the state of New Jersey. This guide takes you through the steps of owning a home, 1 through 9, okay? What the cost of ownership is, talks about home buying counseling, all the way to what happens during closing, okay? Great resource, links from mortgage calculators. This is a PDF file that you can download to your desktop and utilize at your leisure anytime you need to, okay? And as you can see here, what to do before making the offer, how do you obtain a mortgage, home inspection. These are all great things to help you understand the process. And even more so, there's a glossary of terms at the back of this particular document. So if you have a term or you hear a term that you're not familiar with, you can flip to the glossary, look up the term, and actually see what the definition is so you get a better understanding of that. Great resource to have. Put it on your desktop so you can utilize it and access it at any time. Now, there might be some folks on this webinar who are already qualified with a lender. If that lender is not on our particular participating lender list, and you want to take advantage of our down payment assistance program, simply have your lender reach out to our agency at sflenders@njhmfa.gov at the bottom of this particular slide. And we will work with them to get them on our list to help you benefit from the monies that are available to help you with down payment and closing costs. If you are in the market to buy and you're ready to start and you want lenders referred to you, you can utilize our lender request form simply by going to this link, and I'm going to show you what it looks like. This link will take you to find a lender, and it will pair you with up to 3 of our participating lenders, our 3 top lenders, okay? Put in your information, your name, number, the county you're looking to purchase in, whether or not you want a face-to-face or over the phone meeting, and we will return to you 3 lenders. Those lenders will also contact you directly, and you can determine which lender you would like to use. But if you don't want to utilize calling the lender directly yourself from this list, down at the bottom of this particular page, you see downloadable and printable lists of participating lenders. You certainly can call the lender yourself if you want to just call yourself. But if not, and you want someone referred to you, just fill out the form and submit it, and you will get 3 lenders to contact you regarding getting the ball rolling with you for the home buying process. Okay, that concludes my presentation. Here is my contact information on the screen here. Feel free to email me at any time with any questions that you might have. Email is the best way to reach me, but if you want to give me a call, leave me a voicemail. If I'm not able to pick up, I will return the call. It might not be immediately, but I will return the call. But email is the best way to reach me. I wanted to talk about one other thing really quick since we don't have a realtor on the line. Normally we have a realtor on the line, and the realtor would specify what their job is helping you as a potential first-time home buyer. And I'm going to go through the 9 things that your real estate agent should be doing for you. The first thing they should be doing for you is helping you to get approved. If you're not already approved and you have a particular realtor in mind, your realtor can help you get approved, one, by being knowledgeable about the programs available for first-time home buyers. And they have a trusted network of lenders that they work with already. Okay, so they should be able to help you get pre-approved for a mortgage to start the ball rolling. The second thing is your realtor is there to help you find a home. The realtor should know the market or area that you're looking to purchase in, and his or her job is to try to get as close as possible to what you're looking for in a home and in the area that you're looking for. The third thing is that your realtor is there to negotiate your offer. Okay, they should understand the values of the properties that you're looking at and how much you should offer on that property. If you have a real estate agent who's not good at negotiating, then I suggest you find another realtor. But your realtor should be able to understand what your pre-qualifications are in terms of how much mortgage you've been approved for, and help you find a home within that range to your specifications, whether or not it's 2 bedrooms, 2 baths, and other things. And also, they can actually look at the market conditions of homes sold in a particular area over a recent period of time and determine the value of the property that you're looking to purchase. Fourth, they will help you with picking a home inspector. Again, they have a network of folks that they utilize each and every day. So they should be able to hook you up with an inspector. All inspectors aren't the same. Some are better than others. And your real estate agent should be able to point you in the right direction with the best inspector for you. The other thing that your agent should do for you is attend the home inspection with you. If you have a real estate agent that decides that they're not going to attend the home inspection with you, I'm telling you right off the bat, that's not a good agent. That agent should be there with you every step of the way, because there's more eyes on the issues, if there are any issues, and your agent can point out stuff that the inspector misses. So it's important to have that agent there representing you for things that might be missed. And then, if that's the case, then number 6 is they can again negotiate any home inspection repair requests. Okay, so your realtor, the inspector, they find problems, then they either need to be fixed by the seller or negotiated on, and your realtor will work with all parties, including your attorney, to come up with some solution. Number 7, really quick, your realtor is there to communicate with the seller, the seller's agent, and the buyer's attorney, which is your attorney, throughout the entire sale. So they're there to communicate with all parties and make sure all parties are abreast of everything that's going on. It's very vital to have an agent who's working for you diligently. Number 8, which is very, very important, because you as a first-time home buyer might not think of this, but once you get pre-approved for a mortgage, you will then get a firm commitment or approval after some extensive credit checks and income verification and employment. So that particular commitment to give you the loan is firm, but it has an expiration date. And your realtor, your attorney also will stay on top of this to make sure if for some reason you're not going to close by the anticipated date before your commitment expires, then work with parties to get that commitment extended. And finally, number 9, your agent is there to tie up any loose ends prior to closing. It's their job to look at everything going on, double check to make sure things are done so that you can get to closing and not have a surprise. Surprise meaning your realtor is going to tell you, once you get this commitment, don't buy any furniture, don't buy anything, don't buy a car, don't buy a boat, don't purchase anything until you close on this home. Because true story, I'm a former loan officer. I got a young man approved for the mortgage. We get to closing. What they do prior to closing, they run your credit again to make sure everything's the same when they gave you the commitment. But you know what he did? He went out and bought a car, $500 payment. You know what happened? His debt to income ratio's no longer valid. We couldn't close on the home. Don't make that mistake. I implore you, if you don't take anything from this webinar tonight, if you get pre-approved for a mortgage, do not purchase anything. I'm talking not even furniture for the house until you close on the mortgage. You can purchase the other stuff later. Also, once you close on this home, you got greater buying power for a bunch of other things. So that's my word of advice. Those are the 9 things that a realtor should do for you. I hope I didn't talk too much, but I'm done. If there are any questions, I'm open to answer.
Thanks, Jesse. I don't have any questions waiting in the chat. If anyone has questions, feel free to type them in the chat. Feel free to unmute. We're here to answer questions. We do have one more speaker, but I want to get to the Q&A for Jesse first. So feel free if you have something specific you want to ask.
Yeah, just unmute yourself and ask your question.
We're here to help. We want to make sure you got all the information you need and you understand it clearly. That's why we're here.
Okay, well, if you have any questions, you think of something, feel free to put it in the chat, or you can always ask it a little bit later.
Hi, I do have a question.
Sure.
Okay, I was looking at the maximum income guidelines.
Mm-hmm.
What if it's only one adult and the rest are children, and the adult is close to the maximum income guidelines? Are they still eligible for the program?
Right. You're saying that you're the only one in the household with the income, but the total household number, including the kids, are over 3+.
I thought the maximum was 103,000.
It depends on the program, though. It depends on the program, because if you go with the first-time home buyer, it's 103,000. If you go with the Homeward Bound, it's actually I believe it's the max is 144,000.
Oh, okay.
So there's flexibility here.
Okay.
All right.
So I would still be eligible for both programs.
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you.
That's a great question. Anybody else?
Hi, I have a question.
Yeah.
I understand you have to be, you have to live in the home, but let's say you go away for like a week on vacation and you want to do an Airbnb type of situation. Is something like that allowed?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
So I understand you have to live in the home. It has to be your primary residence, but let's say you go away on vacation or something like that, and you want to rent out the house for like Airbnb situation. Is something like that allowed during the 5 years?
Yeah, as long as it's still your primary residence, that's fine.
Okay.
It has to be your primary residence, though. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Sure. Anyone else have questions for Jesse? Any questions on our program? Questions about what the realtor is there for you to do for you? Anything like that? Lydia,
I have another question.
Yeah.
I currently reside in New York, but I want to move to New Jersey. Can I still participate in this program?
Yes, you can, as long as you're moving here and you're going to stay here for the rest of your life. I'm kidding. No, as long as you move here and stay here for 5 years. Lynn? Did you get that?
Yes, I did get that.
Okay,
Thank you very much. Thank
no
you.
problem.
Sure. Thanks, Lynn, for the questions. All right, well, if anyone else has questions, if you think of something later while we're still on the call with our next speaker, feel free to put it in the chat, or else we'll have another Q&A at the end. But right now I'm going to introduce Sital Shah. He's our attorney from Shah Legal Law Firm. I'm going to put his information in the chat now. But Sital, thanks for coming on tonight.
Hey, good evening. How is everybody?
Good evening. Good, thank you.
1 second. Sorry, 1 second. All right. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Good evening. I'm attorney Sital J. Shah. Welcome to the seminar. And the best thing to remember when you sign a contract is you have a 3-day attorney review period. Those are 3 business days. So Saturdays, Sundays, and holidays do not count. So if you're signing a contract on a Friday night and you're panicking and you can't reach your attorney after hours, you don't have to worry. It's business days that count towards reviewing a contract. What I like to say is attorney review period is called the agree to disagree period. So you will have an opportunity to review the contract with your attorney, make suggestions. He or she will answer your questions, and the sellers will do the same with the seller's attorney. Once both sides agree on the changes and they sign off on the changes, attorney review is considered done. That means it becomes a binding contract. If you get anything out of this seminar from my end, there'll be 2 or 3 key points tonight. One will be a practical suggestion, not a legal suggestion. That means if you like a house, you've seen many homes, you're tired of seeing your home after home each weekend driving around, you know it's a seller's market, it's very hot, and contracts are flying off the shelf. If you finally seen a home that you like, what you have to do is finish attorney review. That means once you agree with the changes on both sides and both sides sign off, that's a good thing. It's a binding contract and somebody else cannot make another offer and take the home away from you. So the faster you conclude attorney review, the faster you win. So you really want to get started on attorney review as soon as you sign the contract if you're really interested in the home. What I get asked most often in the contract is how much deposit should I put down? Generally, it's $1,000 good faith deposit. And then the second deposit is generally 3, 4, 5, 7, 10 days after attorney review. Everything that I'll speak about tonight is after attorney review. That means after the contract's binding. There's no science, there's no textbook, there's no correct answers to second deposit. Sellers usually want you to put more and buyers want to put less. You have to come to some understanding. Another key point in the contract is generally home inspections. You typically have 14 days after attorney review to conduct an inspection, provide an inspection report to your attorney, and then email them a list of repairs that you would like the seller to consider. The seller will either make repairs or provide credits. I'll get to home inspections in a minute. Mortgage commitment, you typically have 4 weeks from attorney review to provide a mortgage commitment to your attorney. That means a piece of paper from the lender that basically says in simple English, they reviewed your paperwork, they reviewed your financials, they approved you, and they will loan you the money on the day of the closing. That's an important piece of paper. Your attorney will also review title work. They want to make sure there's no lawsuits, liens, or judgments on the property. This is not your problem. This is your attorney's job, and he or she will take care of it. It only becomes your issue if you hire attorneys that just do not do real estate. It's very important that you hire a real estate attorney who understands the complexities. Non-real estate attorneys, there's a lot of small details in the closings that generally get overlooked if one is not experienced or knows what to look out for. Title work, you want to make sure that the owner really owns the property and all the bills are paid off. Water, sewer, seller's mortgage, those are all lienable on the property. Just a fun fact. Let's assume the seller owes child support. They're past due. That is actually lienable on the property. as well as 12 months of future payment. So you would be very upset inheriting child support payments from a previous seller as a lien on the home you're buying that has nothing to do with you. Then once the mortgage and the title is done, your attorney is like your bodyguard. Their job is to protect you, to vet everyone, and it's a team-oriented approach. They work with everybody. The home inspector, your agent, your lender, title company, and with a common goal to get to the actual closing. So your attorney will review things, vet things for you, and coordinate amongst all the vendors. So let's make pretend actually tomorrow is the day of closing, maybe 2 o'clock. Your attorney today would have told you how much money you had to actually bring to closing. That's called closing cost. Then your attorney will tell you to conduct a walkthrough. You want to visit the property one more time before closing. Why? You want to make sure there's no damage to the property. You want to make sure there's no physical damage, there's no leaking pipes, that the house is in the same condition when you sign the contract and when you conducted home inspections. Now, let's get back to home inspections. The biggest thing I get asked most often in home inspections, which typically you have 2 weeks from attorney review, what can I ask for? I mean, you can ask for all the repairs you want, but in reality, it doesn't mean the seller is going to do everything you ask for. Now, the contract says sellers obligated generally to perform major repairs. Major repairs is defined by the contract, not what you think, not what your attorney thinks. Major means heating, air conditioning, electrical work, plumbing, sewer, mechanical systems, mold, termite, environmental, asbestos. The roof should be sound, free of leaks. Basement should be structurally sound, free of cracks. Foundation cracks. Windows should be working condition. HVAC. These are major repairs. Now, if you ask for other repairs and the seller performs them, then you say thank you. That's a Christmas gift. They did not have to do it. Now, most people ask me also, if I conducted home inspections and I didn't like the house, I changed my mind, I want to move to a different county, whatever the excuse is, can I cancel? Home inspection is not based on how the buyer feels and what they like. Home inspection in the contract basically says if the seller addresses all the major repairs, you really don't have an excuse to get out of the contract, because think about it, they're performing all the repairs. So you'll ask me, well, okay, how do I get out of it though? If they don't perform any of the major repairs, that's your excuse and that's how you get out of the contract. But if you have an emotional reaction and you tell your attorney, cancel the contract without having the seller address the repairs, you will have a problem with your deposit monies being held up by the other attorney, because they will say we have an opportunity to fix the problem before you cancel. The sellers will either perform the repairs, give you a credit, or a combination thereof. If you're getting a credit, it's probably wise to get an estimate. Then you can understand and negotiate better and to make sure you're treated fairly. What do I mean? Let's say there's a plumbing repair and the seller offers you $75. But your plumber says it costs $700 with parts and labor to fix it. Now you're educated. You have an estimate for $700. If you negotiate $600, you're ahead of the game because you're pretty close to your estimate and you feel more comfortable. It's a good idea to get estimates from licensed contractors because you want licensed people to do the work, especially if the seller is performing repairs. Certain repairs like plumbing, electrical, you don't want a handyman special. You want licensed people to do it and perform those type of repairs. Now, that's the overall process we ran through pretty quickly at each area of the contract. Now, please hang with me on the last point. If nothing else you remember from my seminar, my name, you might want to remember what I'm telling you next. That's why I save it for the last few minutes of the presentation. Everyone tried to hang with me on this point. Whenever you buy property in New Jersey, the seller has to perform an inspection from the township and provide those certificates to the buyer. Some towns have a carbon monoxide and a smoke detector certification. It means a fire department comes, inspects the smoke detectors. If they work, they sign off on a certificate, give it to the seller, seller gives it to the buyer. Some towns have what's called a certificate of continuing occupancy. That means the building department comes in, inspects the property. If everything passes, they give a certificate to the seller. Every town has one or both inspections. That means you have to Google it or call your town code enforcement, and they'll tell you what's required. That means certain towns require a smoke detector and the CO. Certain towns require the CO only. Certain towns require only the smoke. It's one or the other or both. Now, seller has to give this to the buyer on the day before the day of closing. Now, let's assume today you found your dream home and you liked the finished basement. You saw yourself in the finished basement. You said, this is a man cave, I like it, or a woman cave, and you were excited. Once you sign the contract and you're excited about your finished basement, 50% of the population may give it a thought and wonder whether that basement's legal or not. The other 50% of the population may not even know, may not be curious, or may not even have the wisdom to know if they should care about whether it's done legal or not. You determine in the audience which group you fit in. Let's assume you do not know what is required. Your attorney then asks the other side, is the basement finished? It's finished, whether it's legal. Now, let's assume in this particular township that you're buying, it's only a smoke detector certification. It means the fire department comes, tells you if the smoke detectors work. It's a yes or a no. That's the only thing the township requires. So let's say your attorney asks for proof the finished basement is legitimate with proper permits. The other attorney gives a smoke detector certification because that's the only thing that's offered. Now, this is where the details matter. Your attorney has two choices. One, to accept that certificate, move on, give it to you, close out the issue, and you don't know any better, so you listen to your attorney. A second attorney would say, this is not enough. We need actual permits. That means basically a piece of paper signed off by the township that the basement has been inspected and it's okay. Let's assume your attorney just got the smoke detector certificate. Now you closed, you're very happy, you plan your housewarming and you're done. You're very happy. 3 years go by and now you're selling the home. The new buyer will now ask whether that basement that you like so much, they like it as well, whether that basement is legal. You waive your smoke detector certificate from your previous closing and you provide it to them. Except this buyer is much more smarter than you are. There's millions of people smarter than you. This buyer goes on Google and figures out that you need a permit from the township for a finished basement. They ask you and you provide a smoke detector certificate and they say that's not enough. They call the township and ask whether the basement is legitimate. The township says there's no inspection on file and we are not aware of the finished basement. Now, everybody hang on this last point. Now the buyer will ask you, the seller, to get the proper permission from the township. That is an expensive process. It can be, because depending on the work that was done, the township may require you to hire an electrician, a plumber, maybe architectural drawings, and there's definitely legal fees involved. Your defense as a seller will be, I bought the basement like this. I didn't do anything. And when we closed, I was given a smoke detector certificate. Now, that defense will work in third grade. That will not work today. You will be forced to legitimize and get the proper paperwork for the new buyer. You'll be very upset when you spend all the money on a basement that you did not complete. Now, the last item and the punch list for this. You will ask, how do I prevent this headache happening before closing when I'm buying something? It's against my financial interest generally to share these thoughts with you now because I make a very good living helping others solve these problems. If you sign a contract, you want to complete what's called an Open Records Public Act form. That's Open Records Public Act. It's a free form. You can go online or go to code enforcement in any township. Anybody can fill this out. You do not have to be the seller. Once you complete this form, within 10 days by law, the township has to share with you whatever information they have on the home you're buying. Doesn't mean there'll be anything, but whatever they have, they'll give you. Why is this important? As soon as you sign the contract and you fill out the Open Records Public Act form, it's free. In 10 days, you get the information. Now, let's assume the seller tells you I have a brand new roof, brand new water heater, brand new HVAC. Now, you get the Open Records Public Act, and there's no permits for these things. And your home inspector says you should ask for the proper paperwork. Now, the town says, I have no permits for these things. You've learned something today. If there's no permits, you want to ask the seller before you close to deal with this situation and get you the paperwork. Why? Because after closing, it's your responsibility and you will have to deal with it. The last thing I would say to you is I would also call code enforcement in any town. People make mistakes. Open records may not disclose everything, or everybody is human. But I found from experience, making that one physical phone call to the code enforcement and asking them if any permits are still open. That means a seller performed work, got the paperwork, but has not called the township to inspect. That means a permit remained open. You want to ask the township, as please, has any permits remained open? And you want to ask the seller to please close out the permits before you close. This way, after closing, you can be rest assured that everything is done properly. If you guys have any questions after the seminar, please give me a call. You can email me. I know they have distributed our home buying guide seminars in English and Spanish. My name is Satal J. Shah. I'm an attorney in Edison, New Jersey. We do closings in every single county, New Jersey. We also travel to the county, New Jersey, so don't let that be a hindrance to you wondering, well, I have to drive to Edison. That's not the case. The last thing is, if you want, if you have a chance, you can go on our Instagram page, which we just started, at ShahLegal _COM. Please visit and find out about our promotions and latest things on fair housing and in general legal knowledge. I want to thank everybody for listening. I wish everybody lots of good luck and happiness, and God bless. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Satal. You're always full of lots of information for us. I appreciate it.
All right, you're welcome.
Does anyone have any questions for Satal or Jesse? We have more time, so please feel free to unmute. If you're not comfortable with speaking, you could put it in the chat and I could read off your questions. But we're here to help.
Hello, I have a question for Satal. My name is Edwin. Hi, Satal.
Hi, good evening.
Hi, good evening. So I wanted to ask the so in regards to the code enforcement information of that entire process that you explained, is that something that when we're getting ready to go ahead and purchase and close, an attorney would be hired at that point to help us with, or should we be doing those things on our own?
The very excellent question. My suggestion to you as a buyer, I would do it the next day you sign a contract. And that's something an attorney does not do. If you find somebody who volunteers and does it for you, that's a good thing. But in my experience and speaking for myself, we do not do that for the client. That's something buyers should conduct their own due diligence. And to be honest with you, even if an attorney did it, I wouldn't trust it. This is one thing a buyer should do themselves and get the information correctly. In case the attorney forgets to do it or mistakes happen. But this is something the buyer, it's a wise thing to do yourself. And one more tip I'll give you. If from my experience, I find a couple of things that last advice I gave you, I think is valuable. When I told you to call the township to see anything that's open, for everyone's benefit out there, we had a client and we did a closing and they did an open records public search, just like I'm telling you to do, and everything came back normal. Now, I don't think you'll even believe me if I tell you this, but the open record came back normal, no issues. But at the closing table, sometimes I've been told a sixth sense. It's just odd. And I told the client, you want to make sure there's permits for the pool or something. And I always told the client, you should call. The client called the township numerous times, but could not get a hold of them. At the closing table, we called the township. The other side was very annoyed with me to call the town. They said, why didn't your client call before? Usually you can't get away with this at the closing table. Somehow we got a hold of the township at 4 o'clock when they close at 4:30. We got lucky in life. When we made the call, I called for code enforcement and I asked him, is anything open? The open record showed everything closed out. You know what the lady said when we called her? At the last second, she goes, oh, wait. And I said, what do you mean, wait? So she's looking at her screen and the permit for the electrical for the pool was open. It did not show it in the open record search.
Wow.
So I learned a lesson. Mistakes happen. So when we called, it was open. So at the closing, we got an escrow held for the seller to deal with this problem. I'm sure you can imagine the seller and their attorneys were very annoyed. And I'm sure you can imagine my client thought I was God by calling and taking care of this. But you don't want to wait till the last minute for this. That's why I said, when you do the open records, always call code enforcement physically and ask them if there's anything open, because people make mistakes and the open records may not always be updated.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Sorry, it's a little longer explanation, but I thought.
No, that was extremely important because I got to actually differentiate the two. So that's the Open Records Public Act. And that would just give me some information, but be sure to do due diligence and call code enforcement.
Correct.
And actually get the correct information from them on what might or might not be currently open. So that was really helpful.
Yeah, you got it. You'll maybe thank me one day on that point alone, because it's a subtle point, but I think it'll save you a lot of money down the road.
Right. Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Great question. Thank you. Do we have any more questions? Anything at all? Feel free to unmute.
Hi, I actually had a question.
Sure.
Is there a list of code enforcements out there that, I don't know, we should be aware of? Or is that like too many out there to have a list for us to look out for?
It's too many to have a list. Every township has codes where you're doing electrical, plumbing, whatever it is. The better thing to do is probably when you do your general home inspection on the property, your home inspector will give you an idea whether if something's outdated or maybe not up to code. He may say, oh, the hot water heater doesn't have a drip pan, for example, and that's not up to code. That gives you a signal to add those items in the request to your attorney to ask the seller to address. But there's no way to have, I guess you could call code enforcement, but good luck reading every single code for every single repair. That's almost as equivalent of somebody saying, can you use a dictionary and start reading every word of a dictionary, and will you know all the words by the end of the hour? That's kind of hard to do. The better way to do it is do a home inspection and have the home inspector alert you to see if anything is not up to code. That's probably a better way to do it.
Okay, thank you.
Sure, good question.
Yes. Anyone else have questions? I did put a bunch of links in the chat and a couple of files from Sital. So just take a look at that. If you didn't get a chance to click or copy any of them, don't worry, you will get an email tomorrow with all of those materials. The last one I put up is where we save all of these webinar recordings and we save them to our YouTube channel. So that's the link there on how to get to our YouTube channel. Today's recording will be uploaded to that channel by probably end of day tomorrow at the latest. But again, you'll get an email tomorrow unless you have been on these events in the past. It won't send you another. So just be sure to chat me your name and email if you want me to resend. I'll do that personally, make sure you get it. But if there's no more questions, I want to thank everyone for coming on. Jesse, Sital, thanks for speaking and giving all great information. If you have any questions, you have Jesse and Sital's contact information. Feel free to reach out to them or me. And I'll put my email address is just the marketing email address for HMFA. There you go. So with that, I'm going to say thank you again for coming on and have a great evening, everyone.
Thank you all so much for coming out tonight. We really appreciate it.
Same here. Thank you. Thank you, Jesse. Thank you, Cynthia.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
night.
Thanks all.
Thank
Good
you.
night,
Have a
everybody.
great night.
You too.
night.
Thanks.